First of all, I'm going to introduce you to the first of our project updates, which is about the Mount Lockyer Primary School update. We have Chandama online, and I think we'll see Chandama from the Department of Finance, and he's the project lead for updates on the Mount Lockyer Primary School project. And we also have Michael here with us as well, who's our regional person who's able to provide a lot more detail about the project itself. So thank you, Chandama and Michael, and I think we're opening with you, Chandama, is that correct?
Let me just...
Oh, we're just going to unmute you, Chandama. It's a little bit bumpy, this technology, I apologise.
But find her...
Speak up, Chandama.
Here we are. So...
Okay, you can go, Chandama.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, that clear?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you, Benita, and thank you for the opportunity as well. Michael from Roberts Garner Architect is our lead consultant on this project, so thanks to Michael for joining us as well. So Mount Lockyer Primary School Major Upgrades project is a critical project for us with an approved budget of 15.48 million, and this focuses on providing a state-of-the-art primary school education facility in accordance with the Department of Education standards and the brief, and it's a critical project for us in the region. So the scope involves a number of new teaching blocks, administration building, library staff facilities, oval landscaping works, as well as refurbishment works to the existing facility. We currently have the forward works package out at tender, and this is scheduled to close on 20th of May. So the forward works scope includes civil earthworks, oval and fencing, and this tender is available on Tenders WA. This particular tender is a single stage two envelope process. So what this means is that we require the respondents to address both qualitative and quantitative criteria. Price preference is also applicable under the buy local policy. So contractors within the specified distance, so that is 200 kilometers within the site, are eligible to claim regional business preferences, and contractors can also claim regional content preferences as well. Also, the Department of Finance further supports the buy local policy by offering Aboriginal business and employment tendering preferences. In order to be successful in claiming this price preference, the respondents need to be registered first with Aboriginal Business Directory WA or Supply Nation. And then they also need to complete the relevant forms that are included in our tender package and confirm in the tender form that they are claiming these price preferences. Also, it is very important that the contract or tenders refer to the relevant clauses around the submission requirements, because if you don't get your submissions correct as per the requirement, we might have to declare the tenders non-conforming, and that would be a very unfortunate situation. So, which means that you'd be not considered at all. So it's very important. There are specific requirements around how you're required to submit the tender. So I ask that you pay particular attention to these. That's all included in our preliminaries package. Also, due to COVID, we are only accepting online submissions. So Tenders WA is the submission platform, and you need to be registered on Tenders WA to be able to make the submission. So that's sort of about the forward works package and the submission requirements. In terms of the main works, so the main works involves the rest of the building, actual construction works and the refurbishment package. We are targeting to send this out to the market in around August this year. And this will also be issued through Tenders WA. This one will require a certain pre-qualification, probably around level 4, conventional or complex. But however, given that this is a regional project, regional and Aboriginal contractors would be able to request contract-specific pre-qualification upgrades. This further information on this process and the documentation required for this is available on wa.gov.au. So you can find out more information about that. So that's the main works package. Michael, do you have anything further to add?
No, you pretty well hit on the head there, Chandamar. Thank you. As far as the tendering and the how it's going to be run through the Department of Finance, and I'm quite happy to answer any technical inquiries that people might have as to what form the building might take, and some of the key dates moving forward.
Do we have any questions?
I think perhaps you could give us a little brief overview of that, the details of what kinds of opportunities exist in this, what kinds of trades and businesses will be able to access, give some details to the groups about exactly what kinds of things you're looking for.
Okay, well, as Chandamar mentioned, the project's being split into 2 procurement areas. The first one is out for tender at the moment, and that requires we're moving around to some earthworks, getting ready for the main contract to start around about November this year. So the tender that's out for at the moment is civil works, moving some earth around and creating a new oval so the school can have continuity of outdoor sports throughout the building program, which will occur throughout 2021. So we want to make sure there's an oval for the kids to play on. And that'll be all in place hopefully by the end of this year. It's the program. And then it'll have a settling in program for about 3 months. So ready for the new term next year. They'll have a new oval and the earthworks will be ready to commence construction following a tender process for the main building works. Now, as Chandamar mentioned before, the main building works, there is the construction of 6 brand new buildings, which is 4 classroom teaching blocks and an administration building and an undercover sports area. As part of the redevelopment of the site too, there's an existing covered assembly area, which we're going to repurpose that as a staff room and library block. So that will be the first run of buildings that come through, and it will be done in separable portions. If I mean separable portions, the overall contract will be by one contractor, but he'll have 2 separable portions within that contract to hand over the works progressively so that the school's able to continue working through without interruption. So that's the first separable portion, is the creation of the 6 buildings, and once they are occupied at the start of 2022 school term, we'll hand over the old buildings for their demolition and cleaning up the rest of the site, and there's one other classroom cluster there of 6 classrooms just to be refurbed with a bit of recarpet and repaint and some new doorways and what have you. So that's pretty much the program for the delivery of these buildings. The buildings themselves are very simple. They're basically double brick, colour bond roofs, galvanised steel framing, aluminium windows, and there's nothing special about them. So obviously local trades can participate. We don't need really any specialist trades from outside of Western Australia or even outside of Albany, I don't believe. So it's be a great opportunity for some good-sized contractors to jump on board with good relations with main contractors. You won't be able to, if you're a subcontractor, tender directly. You'll have to work with a main contractor.
Well, that's pretty exciting to hear.
It's a very exciting project, and we think it's going to be the benchmark for the best way forward for primary school designs and working through how we go through in the next generation teaching blocks for Western Australia.
So if that's the case, and I'm a tradie that's sort of, I don't know, maybe new to this process. So if I'm someone that wants to get involved in this, because this is a great entry-level project, I wonder if there's anything, you can tell us about what the major rookie errors are in terms of getting involved in a project like that, and what kinds of feedback you might have about people that have been really successful. What are some of the rookie errors and what are some of the hot tips?
Well, if I can answer that question, Benita, the most important thing is, as I mentioned earlier, the tenders need to make sure that they comply with our submission requirements. Otherwise, they don't even their submission won't even get looked at. So that's the most important thing. And also, I should have mentioned that both forward works and main works tenders, these are construct-only contracts. So the design is being done by our consultants and fully documented. So it's expected that they're only construct-only contracts, both forward works and main works. It's very going back to the submission requirements. So our preliminaries very clearly state documents that should be submitted with tender, and also how they should be submitted. Given that this is both these tenders, so forward works and main works, yet to be advertised, they are both single stage and 2 envelopes. So which means the submission requirements is that the contractors will be required to submit their pricing information on a separate envelope, and their qualitative criteria information or response to the qualitative criteria on a separate envelope, all online. So most of our first-time contractors get this wrong, and if they do, we have to declare that a non-conforming tender. So it's very important that they understand the requirements, and also don't leave it till the last minute. And because now we can only accept online submissions, so make sure you give yourself plenty of time to make the submission as well.
That's fantastic advice. Thank you. We've got a couple of questions online that I want to throw to now, but thank you very much for those rookie errors. We actually have one of our civil and construction engineer companies that have trouble with NBN sometimes too, so getting in early is a really important comment. So a few questions that we've had is, and apologies if you may have answered this and I may not understand the technical language, but is this a design and construct tender is a question that's come from Beth. Thank you, Beth, for that question.
Yeah, Chandamar just.
So I think that's what
Yeah.
Yes, it is
so that's what I mentioned earlier. Both of these contracts or scope of works involve construct only. So they run under what's called ACE 2124 contract. So that's a construct only contract.
Thank you. Thanks, Bob. I must have missed that one when I was looking out for Fred's sound. Janelle has also, hello Janelle, thank you for attending today. It's really exciting to have you on board here. Janelle's asking 2 questions. Can the refurb aspect of the later part of the project please be a separate tender? And also, have you investigated yet if there are any potential bidders that are local?
Yes, so as part of our regional engagement strategy, we do look at, get in touch with obviously Michael works in the region, so we've got some good intel there already. We do get in touch and we do our research, and we can see that there are a number of trades that have the capacity to be involved at subcontractor level, and also there are a number of head contractors as well.
Great, and Rob's asked a further question that sort of flows from that, and that is, can local subcontractors register somewhere for consideration by the main contractors?
Look, we don't have a platform for the subcontractors to be registered. So it is up to the subcontractors or the trades that are interested in these works to get in touch with the potential head contractors to be able to submit their price or their tender to them.
Thank you for that. So Janelle, if I can unmute you, Janelle has some advice or some comments to make about that. I hope that's okay, Janelle. I'm just unmuting you now. Is it possible that you can give us some information about the local register that can be set up through the local content advisor at GSTC?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
We've been doing that in the southwest. We've done it on we're doing it on bore, and we're doing it on larger projects, say $7-8 million projects, but we can do it on any project so that businesses that are local that are interested in subcontracting and have the relevant trades and skills get on that register, so that the head contractor doesn't have to go and hunt around the place. It's not a guarantee of work, and it doesn't mean that the head contractor is obligated to source only from that list, but it does eliminate the question of it tends to a subcontractor saying that they couldn't find anyone locally. So yes, we're doing that. We are doing that in the southwest, and it is working, and it is helpful.
I really appreciate that. Thanks very much, Janelle. And from Great Southern Major Projects, who think that it's a great idea, so thank you for them for that endorsement. Melanie Price has a question about whether or not there is an asbestos remediation component to the project at all.
Yes, there will be quite an intensive hazmat removal part of the contract is involved, and that mainly comes in place in the separable portion 2, which will occur around about the just Christmas holidays, or just after Christmas holidays in 2022. And that'll be the removal of the existing old buildings and cleaning up the existing classroom block.
Right, fantastic.
Very strict requirements for asbestos removal too, particularly on government and school sites.
Okay. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Chandler. Are there any other questions from our guests online?
Perhaps I might ask Chandamar in the open forum here. Can you hear me, Chandamar?
Yeah.
Okay. With the main works contract, we're going for expressions of interest. Hello. We're going for, or Department of Finance is going
No,
for
it
expressions.
won't. Yeah.
It's not doing that now.
No, because we will. That's what I meant by we will go through a single stage 2 envelope. So that means we are not going through an EOI stage. We go out to the market, but however, we will require the respondents to address both qualitative and quantitative criteria in that one process.
And that will be a level 4 at this stage pre-qualification for contractors.
Yes.
Thank you. So if anybody's out there who's seeking to be considered, would need to be, if they're not level 4 already, would need to start looking at getting that pre-qualification through Department of Finance.
What's level 4, Adrian? Sorry, I'm going to ask the question. I'm probably going to be laughed at, but I think that's important.
So with our works that we do, we have contractors to be pre-qualified with us for most works that we do. However, the forward works, because it's mainly civil and earthworks, that doesn't require pre-qualification, so that's fine. But for main works, that's mainly construction work, so that requires tenderers to be pre-qualified with us. So that's a process that they go through prior to submitting the tender with us. So, but however, contractors that are already registered or have a pre-qualification level of level 3 would be able to request a contract-specific upgrade, pre-qualification upgrade. This is only applicable to regional and Aboriginal contractors. So they can find more information on this on wa.gov.au as to the process that they need to go through to seek this contract-specific pre-qualification upgrade.
Right, okay, well, thank you. Charlotte's asking a bit of a further question to that one, and that is about whether or not you would publish anything or a list of the types of works and services that are required so that subcontractors and people like Charlotte herself and others like ourselves can help people to prepare and build their capability to meet some of those pre-quals and get themselves set up for that. Is that something that you would publish?
Well, certainly our tenders don't really work towards the subcontractors having pre-qualification. That's up to the main contractor to work with people. They are comfortable, they have the necessary certification to do that work. And I'll use examples like floor coverings and plumbers and electricians. They've all got to have their own registrations. So it's up to the main contractor to work with the people he knows. Our tender documents don't drill down to work with subcontractors.
So I guess that would mean that part of the process where people are registering, the process that Janelle was talking about, where some of the head contractors are able to access a list of possible subcontractors or people can register their interest, perhaps that environment is the space to have those questions and answers.
I think you'll find that usually happens normally as in the tender process, and you quite often see ads in the paper, people tendering on particular projects to submit their prices to a head contractor. So that usually a head contractor will be out there calling for subcontract prices.
Right, great. Well, thank you.
Yeah, Michael is absolutely right.
Chandler, one of the people in the audience is just asking if you could please return to, and I think I may have interrupted you, I apologise if I did, but the refurb aspect of the project and whether that at the late part of the project can be a separate tender at all.
Look, at this stage, we are not looking at doing that because it's quite, in order for us to manage, obviously we are running this project while the school is in operation. So therefore it's very important because while we want to obviously work with the regions, we also need to make sure that we maintain the operation of the facility. That's a primary requirement for us. So in order for us to be able to manage that better, we see that having one contractor on board who is able to manage both the new build and the refurbishment aspect works better for us in order to manage the operations aspect of the facility, because this is not a greenfield site, which is what we would normally do for a new primary school. What makes it a bit complicated in this instance is that it is we are trying to build a brand new primary school on an occupied site. So that is a major risk for us, and we need to do what we can to address that. And we see that the best way to manage that is by having a single contractor who is responsible for both the main work, the refurbishment aspect, as well as the main works. They are very much interconnected. So we don't see that we have the ability to separate that component. Whereas, I mean, that's why we have separated out the forward works, so that we saw that there was some merit in there, and to give the opportunities for the smaller contractors and the regions. So that's why we have already done that by extracting out the civil works package as a forward works package, but we don't really see that working for us with the refurbishment part. I hope that answers the question.
Janelle, please do send us a message if you want some more clarity on that, but otherwise for now, yes, I think we've got time for one more question, do we, Nathan?
We've got a little bit of time.
Great, so I've got Concept Tech, I've got a question, thank you for that, from Natasha, and Natasha's wondering if there's going to be a technology element in the build. You mentioned NBN briefly, she said, and other trades, but not anything about the tech component specifically.
Okay, well, I can answer that, Chandra. And basically, yeah, there's an existing school there with its existing technology, and we don't see that as changing other than what's there at the moment and reconfiguring it to suit an existing school. There will be a VoIP system in place, which is probably only new technology for that school. Other than that, there's nothing new.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, if there's no more questions, I'd really like to say a huge thank you to Chandama and to Michael for coming in and for being able to answer those questions.